What's the most unusual thing that's happened to you during a real estate transaction?
Probably the most unusual one I've ever done is I had a client who had a property. We had discussed if there was any liens or any holds or taxes or anything on it, to which the client responded, no, I'm good. I owe a little money on it and I'm fine. But when it came to closing, we found out that there was probably listed 3 pages worth of tax liens, other liens, you name it, were all on the property. So it took quite a bit of traveling during the closing process between myself and, of course, broker Rob Hinn, traveling with checks. Once we closed this property, everything had to be paid off that day. So we had to make a road trip to different areas because it was kind of out of the county. And we ended up having to pay off all of those little liens and debts in that property before it could officially close, before the seller could actually get a proceeds check. There's a little handy advice for you. Make sure all your stuff is up to date and make sure that you don't have any extra bills or liens hanging out there on your property when you go to sell it.
I've only been doing this for a short while, but I think the most unusual transaction, or the most unique one, I guess, is I actually was my first listing I sold was actually the second house I ever built back in, I believe it was 2000. So it was kind of nice to see that all my years of being in contractor building houses and stuff and see a full turnaround and have that be one of my first listings is probably the most memorable one that sticks out in my head.
One of the most unusual is that you assume that a house has water. My son bought an acreage once that we didn't realize only had a cistern. So we had to hook up to rural water, which luckily was available. But it's very strange to make sure that if you're buying a house that there's actually water, not just a holding tank.
I've never really had anything necessarily unusual happen to me. This gives me a great opportunity to bring up something that happened to my mother a while back. She was pregnant with one of her 3 girls. She goes to show a house to a client and she arrives a bit earlier than her clients to get the home ready, turn on lights, open blinds, whatnot. Turns out there was a squatter in the house and it was terrifying. Nothing bad ever happened to her. People, especially women, always be prepared in this line of work. You go a lot of places alone. Always have plans for your safety.